Yes, it's alive!
Hey YouTube, welcome to Daddy's RC Addiction. Today we are going to be revisiting the Emax Hawk Pro, specifically because I don't like analog. It was an analog quad. I maybe flew it a handful of times, maybe 5 times, and then I got into DJI, and the quality of the video with DJI just kind of spoiled me. I didn't want to do analog anymore. And this guy has sat around for 3 years, 3 years, just sat there, haven't done anything with it. And I recently, as a matter of fact, just yesterday, I made it a HD DJI quad. Now, I didn't film it, but I can tell you how to do it. It is very, very easy. All you need is the VISTA, and you're good to go.
Subscribe. Ding the bell.
Some people don't like Emax, and I can kind of understand some of the reasoning here. But for me, Emax has been great because when I got into FPV, I didn't know what I was doing, and they got me up and running and flying and learning a lot of different things that I didn't know straight away. So, and especially this guy. This guy here is the Baby Hawk HD. This guy flies awesome for a 3.5-inch prop. It is an awesome sub 250 quad. First thing I did is I took off the canopy, which is basically just 2 screws and 2 nuts. Then I took out the VTX, which is basically just a few pins. You pull it out and it's out. I disconnected the camera plugs. I didn't desolder those, I just left those in there. And I desoldered the receiver. That's pretty much it. I connected a capacitor to the power leads. I connected the power from the VISTA unit to the power leads. I connected the RX and TX to R1 and T1 on the bottom side of the flight controller. I think it's over all the way on the other side, but it worked no problem. They reached. And I connected the S-bus to the receiver port where the old receiver was connected. So all you really need to do is connect up the yellow wire and the black wire. The red wire you just disconnect, and that is not used because the receiver is powered by the VISTA unit. Some other things I did. There is a little support here, which actually was in the front supporting the VTX. So I pulled one of those supports from the front and put it in the back, so I've got one in each corner. One on this side, and then one across on this side. There's nothing here, so I put a little bit of foam just to kind of give it some support and to hold it steady. And then I just wrapped a couple of zip ties going around underneath where the battery strap goes, and then I zip tied those 2 zip ties together with a zip tie. I don't know if you could see, it's underneath the antenna, but I zipped those 2 together so that they wouldn't pull apart, so they stay together. And then this mount right here, I happen to have I have 2 IH2, iFlight IH2s, and the ESC died on one of them, so I used that for parts, and I used the antenna mount from the IH2 on here, and I just zip tied that to the other zip ties. Here's a look at the Hawk Pro pinout. So this here is what I did with the S-bus for the VISTA. I hooked up the S-bus here, which is the yellow wire, I believe, and the white wire goes to the ground right here. I hooked up the RX and the TX to RX1 and TX1. So obviously the RX1 from the flight controller goes to the TX on the VISTA, and then the RX on the VISTA goes to the TX on the flight controller. I don't have a pinout view for the ESC, but that's pretty much self-explanatory. You hook up the capacitor and the power wire from the VISTA to the appropriate ground and power on the ESC. I also wrapped the capacitor wires with shrink tubing so that they wouldn't short out or cause any problems. Not sure if you can see that, but these are the 2400 motors. They are for 4S, but what I did is I reprogrammed it in Betaflight so that you could run 4S or 6S and it automatically detects it. I will throw up the instructions on that right here. Here are instructions on how to set up a 4S motor to run on 6S batteries. So if you're going to do like I did with the Hawk Pro, you'll need to do a few other things to set up the DJI system. But if you're just setting up your 4S motors to run on 6S batteries, this will do it for you. So here are all the parts I took off the Emax Pro, and it weighs about 26 grams. All up weight with the 1050 mAh 6S battery is 506 grams. I think the VISTA was around 30 grams, camera, everything all together. The capacitor maybe was 4 or 5 grams, I don't know. But our all up is 506. So that's all I did to get this guy together. I loved the way it flew before when it was analog. I loved the response. I loved how quick it turned. It really flew very well. So there's going to be a little bit of added weight. I hope that doesn't affect the performance too much. So I'm going to be testing 3 different KVs, 1750, 1850, and 1950. I'm going to use 2 different size batteries, a 1050 mAh and a 1300 mAh, to see how the weight difference affects the performance. I'm thinking the 1300 mAh is going to do the best, probably on all of them, because this one I feel is going to be a little bit too light for 6S power and the KVs that we are using. I'm ready for the test flight of the Emax Hawk Pro with the DJI in it. Gotta admit, I'm kind of nervous. It's like 43 degrees out. It's a little cold. Hopefully that doesn't affect it too much. And there's still snow on the ground, so I really hope I don't crash. But let's do this. Alright, I think we're ready. Okay, here we go. A little nervous.
Woohoo! We got the Hawk Pro back up in the air with DJI Clarity.
Well, we're up. And we're recording. I'm gonna take it real slow. Looks so much better than analog. Oh my god. Glad I did it. Clarity is awesome.
So I'm taking it really, really slow because I wasn't sure how good I did with my joints with the soldering. So I didn't want the vibration to knock one of my soldering joints loose and then come falling out of the sky within the first minute. That would have been super, super, super disappointing. So I'm just kind of feeling it out, and plus the KV and the weight is not feeling right at this point. So bear with me for a bit as I test it out.
Flying behind me right now.
Trying to adjust to the power weight ratio. It's a little difficult with this setting.
Alright, let's see how it flips.
So I'm super comfortable doing flips, but whenever I'm doing it's not a new quad. I flipped it before, but whenever I changed things, so I was kind of nervous for this first flip, but it was fine. And again, just working on that KV to power ratio, and it's not really feeling comfortable just yet.
Flipped good. Just haven't flown this in a while. Starting to get the feel of it. Don't want to crash my first time out. That would really suck. My other quads don't have props in view, so that'll take a little bit of getting used to.
I found myself constantly looking at the props, and when the props are in view, I don't know, felt like closed in, or like the quad is bigger than what it is because you can see the props. I know it's just getting past the visual, and eventually you'll see in the upcoming videos that I finally get past those props in view.
Try to take it on one of my normal circuits.
So here you'll see I fly over my shed, or by my shed in between my house. Normally it's not a problem, but mentally I'm still looking at these props, and yeah, it's difficult.
Over here.
So I don't have enough room, it's just mental.
Through the house.
Still trying to work past those props.
Over my cars, over my truck.
Starting to settle in a bit.
Also, I haven't flown in months, and my hands are shaking because it's so freaking cold out here.
So 1750 is not the right KV for this battery. So you can see I'm struggling to keep my ride height consistent. You can see it kind of goes up and down just a little bit. I'm doing it, but not well. It's not comfortable. It's taking quite a bit of effort. Here I almost clip a branch. Thank God I was far enough away.
Hit a tree branch. I don't know, it feels good. Just gotta get used to how this guy flies again. I'm not used to flying with props in view. It is pretty distracting.
At this point, I'd say I'm over halfway there, feeling comfortable with props in view. It's, you know, this was my first quad, and when I flew it, I only flew it a handful of times, so I really didn't get comfortable with it because I kind of went straight into DJI and props out of view. So coming back to it, it's taking a little bit of an effort, but and working through these KVs, by the time I get to the KV I settle on, I'm feeling real comfortable, and I almost don't see the props anymore. So it was definitely a work in progress, and I'm still very happy I changed to DJI with the Hawk Pro.
Don't want this thing to fall out of the air like my crocodile baby did. Last time I flew when it was cold, the blades on my crocodile baby shattered, and that thing came crashing to the ground. Survived, no problems. Went right back up in the air, but annoying nevertheless. Shot that one a bit. One more time around.
At this point, I think I've completely zoned out the props. They're still there, still see them, but I'm starting to feel that the gaps aren't as small as they seem because of that visual with the props. So I'm feeling much more comfortable. The KV is really what I'm struggling with right here. So I know I need to change the KV, but I figured I'll burn out this battery. I'm just enjoying that I've got the Hawk Pro up in the air with the DJI system, and it's no longer analog, and I'm just really enjoying flying it, even though it's not flying so well at this moment. So I'm getting antsy here. Here I want to fly like I normally fly. I want to fly fast. I want to fly that low proximity flight between trees over bushes like I normally fly, which I find the most fun, proximity flying. So I'm trying, but like I said, this KV, you could see there. Normally I can hold a nice line over that shed, but it was just a little. I couldn't get the right power to stay in that line. The KV wouldn't allow me to do it, but I was trying nevertheless, and I probably should have just said, you know, let me bring it in, change the KV straight away, but I didn't, so I just burnt out this battery. Now finally, I'm coming in, it's at the end of the battery, so let's land it.
This is day 2. It's about 60 degrees outside, a lot better than that first day. I was like shaking. I couldn't even control the quad. Nevertheless, the 1750 is definitely not the best KV for the quad. So I bumped it up to 1950. On the 1050 mAh, it had tons and tons of power. Matter of fact, too much power. It felt, I mean, I barely moved the stick, and it was out of control. On the 1350, it was better, felt a little bit less floaty, and felt like I had plenty of power, but I still feel like it felt a bit too floaty. I think what I'm going to do is going to pop it down to 1850 and give that a try on 1050 mAh and 1300 mAh. Okay, let's figure out the percentage for 1850 kV. So 1850 divided by 2400 equals 77. So we know that's going to be 77%. When you times that by 100 equals 77.08%. So we're going to put in 77%. So you can see I already got set motor output limit equals 77. Enter. I've already got it on profile 1. And then we type save, enter, and there we go. So let's give this a try. Pro was my first 5-inch FPV quad, and it was an analog, and I loved it. I mean, I thought it flew great, and ever since then, I just kept getting deeper and deeper into FPV. And then I found DJI, and I didn't look back. So this guy, like I said, sat on the shelf for years, and I never did anything with it, but I always liked the way it flew. So that's why I put the DJI in it. And I think that just transformed this for me. So I'm going to be flying this a lot more. Even with props in view, I'm starting to be able to zone them out and not see them and just fly. So even with props in view, I'm still going to fly this guy because I love the way it flies. With the 1850 kV and 6S, this thing is a little bit touchy, so I think I might be dropping that down to 1800 kV, and maybe I won't have to be so feathery on the sticks. But if you've got the Hawk Pro, you should definitely do this mod. You will start to love it again. The analog was cool, but you can't beat the clarity of the DJI HD system. So please subscribe, like, ding the bell, and stay tuned for the next video.
Subscribe. Ding the bell.